of a storm. Found no place at the keeper's door. It was for this a child was born, to save a world so cold and hollow. The sleeping town did not know that lying in a manger low, a Savior King who had no home, has come to heal our sorrows. Is there room in your heart? Is there room in your heart? Is there room in your heart for God to write His story? Shepherds counting sheep at night, do not fear the glory light. You are precious in His sight. God has come to raise the lowly. Is there room in your heart? Is there room in your heart? Is there room in your heart for God to write His story? You can come as you are. It may set you apart when you make room in your heart and trade your dreams for His glory. Make room in your heart. Make room in your heart. Family has the promised time. Every wrong will be made right. The road is straight, the burden's light. For in His hands He holds tomorrow. Is there room in your heart? Is there room in your heart? Is there room in your heart for God to write His story? You can come as you are. It may set you apart. You make room in your heart and trade your dreams for His glory. Make room in your heart.
Pairing with hope. I'm Dave Minster. I'm the director of Next Gen Ministry here at Gethsemane, which is kids and student ministries. Today we're looking at preparing with hope and what it means to make room in our hearts, as sung in the song by Casting Crowns. First, I want to say that when I prepare a room in my house for someone, I anticipate that they're coming over and staying a while. This is what preparing with hope is really getting at. I prepare, convinced that what I'm preparing for will happen, and soon. In the same sense, we prepare for God to write His story through us by making room in our hearts for that to happen. Let me show you a powerful example of this. In Luke 1, an angel of God goes to Mary and tells her this news. You are going to have a baby, and he is God's son. That's massively overwhelming news. Mary's life just got completely derailed. Put yourself in her shoes. You're an unmarried virgin, and now you're pregnant with God's son. And either way you look at it, whether you think it's a good thing or a bad thing, Mary didn't deserve this. She didn't do enough bad in her life to deserve for it to be completely turned upside down. And she didn't do enough good in her life to be blessed to be a primary vessel of God's grace and love born into flesh. When we look at Mary's response to this, though, it's easy to see. that she has already made room for God to continue his story through Mary. She simply responds by saying, I am the Lord's servant. May your word be fulfilled. She wasn't saying it'd be easy, but she was ready to trade her story for his story. Recently, I led a study on being devoted to God and how that requires trading our story for his story. Like the song says, trade your dreams for his glory. Being ready and willing for God to work his narrative in our lives at the expense of our own narrative. How do you react when hard things hit you? When you experience challenge or stress? It's wise to prepare for challenge before that happens. That's why we have things like smoke alarms and seatbelts. We have these things in place before bad things happen. And similarly, it's wise to make room in our hearts for God before we think we need him the most. Clean out all the clutter in your heart. Clean out your selfishness and your agendas. Clean out the distractions and even the things that seem necessary but really aren't. A lot of the time, these things are what keep us from allowing God to work in our lives. These distractions actually make hard situations harder and magnify stress and anxiety. But when we prepare our hearts by making room for God to write his story, our response when challenge hits is like Mary's. I'm the Lord's servant. May his word be fulfilled. May God write his story through me. So as we prepare for hope this week, be willing to let go of the things that are cluttering up your heart. If you're anything like me, that means spending less time watching TV and on social media. Instead, spend more time studying Jesus. Don't just be inspired by Jesus, be changed by him. Actually put into practice what he tells us. Be an apprentice of Jesus. Study how he lived, like how he treated people and how he used his time. And each day live a little more like he did. By spending more and more time at Jesus' feet, in the Bible, in prayer, and in community at church, we make more and more room for him in our hearts. And when challenge hits us and our lives are upended like Mary's was, we're already prepared. We've already made room for God to continue his story through us, and we can say, I am the Lord's servant.